Welcome to One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, where we get curious about what makes us tick. We're here today with a health expert, business owner, student and absolute juggling specialist, and someone who manages to balance all of that. Welcome, Marta Zaremba Marsden.
Hello.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and have the conversation with me today.
My pleasure, Ian.
So let's just start off. I mean, I know we've met before, but let's just start off with telling us what you do.
Well, so at the moment, my priority is to finish my Martas in sports and exercise nutrition, which I took up a year and a half ago. But I also run my business, which has been in action since 2017, but we have rebranded it last year. And I'm also still a project manager for a corporate company, as I'm a chartered project professional, so I carry on with that career as well.
So you're a juggler in more ways than one.
I have a few things going on, yes.
So Marta, what would be great is to, if you would, just take us back and just take us on your journey. How did you arrive at what you're doing now?
It's quite a long journey, but I'll try to summarize it. So I'm originally from Poland, and that's where I grew up, went to school, and I was on a standard path, as probably a lot of us, where you go to school, go to uni, get married, have kids, get a serious job, and stay in it till probably you retire. But I was always a little bit more curious and adventurous within my family than my siblings. And at some point, I just ended up in London. I suspended my studies in Poland. I was doing international relations back then, on my route to become some form of either a diplomat or some high-powered job somewhere in the public service. And I ended up in linguistics. So I spent 10 years working in linguistics as a translator and interpreter. Absolutely loved that world. I'm still passionate about languages and cultures and travels. But unfortunately, as probably a lot of people know, London is not the cheapest place to live. And when you offer languages such as Polish, English and Spanish, which are quite common, the rates don't pay you very well. So if you do want to ever purchase a property, settle down over there, it was just a no-go. So I changed my career after about 10 years. I moved into, still in linguistics, into account and project management. And then soon enough, another turn happened, or I came across another crossroads, I guess, in my life. And opportunity came up to take a job in Derby at Rolls-Royce in project management. So I took it. And now I'm coming up to 10 years in the Midlands. And I think it's just a standard cycle. I'm coming up to 10 years with Rolls-Royce. So it was the time where I would be thinking, well, actually, this job is now becoming a bit too much of a routine. And I want to learn. I want to carry on learning in my life. So if something becomes just too boring, I guess, I want to change. This process was sped up this time, thanks to COVID. And it made me think. It gave me time to think about, okay, so what is it that I want to do? And because throughout my life, food, drink, sports, it's always been centric to my life. I love cooking. I love going out there and leading a healthy lifestyle. So I thought, well, why don't I do something with this? And I also wanted to take the opportunity to learn the science behind things like nutrition, so that I can then go out there and help people, help others, help the community, and run a business where it's not just for another business, it's for normal people like me.
So what is the business you got? So you obviously mentioned that I know you own the business, but so just tell us, what is the business? What do you do?
So our business, which we run with my husband, is all about nutrition and retreat. A year ago, we moved to Matlock, and we've launched the retreat side of things last year. This year, we're launching the nutrition side of things. So it's all about providing people with a space where they can come and recharge and almost switch off from the high-pressure job, from, I don't know, kids, pets, whatever it is that in your life is going on, and come and recharge.
So question for you. I mean, that's a really really interesting journey. And you've mentioned quite a few times that you've made changes at crossroads or junctions. What drove you to make those changes? I mean, why make the first change? What was going on? What was your thought process? What caused you to make those changes?
I don't think that I was always the driving force. I am hardworking, persistent, but I believe that opportunities do arise in your life. There are times where you just meet people or see something and you just know that you have to say, yes, grab that opportunity and go with it. And that's where I think you just have to listen to your gut. I am very analytical, and obviously I will go back and do the maths and make sure that everything adds up. But a lot of times in my life, I just followed my gut. Things happened and I knew I just had to go down that route.
So this thing about following an interest, something that means something to you, that's been important to you.
Yes, but also it's about being curious and open-minded and going with the flow. The very fact that I moved to London, I had a fantastic life in Poland. I was on the route to a good career. I was already working, and I was actually, that summer I was planning a holiday in Spain. So I only popped in to see my sister for a couple of weeks because she lived there. And all behold, the next thing, this job opportunity came up. And I just couldn't say no, even though it was totally not linked to my interests or my qualification or anything, but I just felt this is right, because then it enabled me to get a place at King's College London to study Hispanic studies. Then it took me on a journey to live in Peru, and the rest is history.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Sometimes we can overanalyze, can't we?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you're interested in health as well. Tell me a bit about your personal health journey. Because obviously there's a driver there, isn't there, when you're interested in health too?
Yes, I am, because throughout my life, either myself or people around me have suffered from different ailments. But also, like I said, being Polish, I am very much driven by food and what we eat and how we eat and the quality of the produce that we use. So there was obviously the interest in food, as well as things like my own health. As a child, I was a chubby child, which obviously attracted some I shouldn't say interest, but more of a disapproval from my fellow students. But it was just the way it was. I was very active. I was always out there cycling, hiking, but I just could never lose my weight. And I never understood that. It was only in my 20s that I started paying attention more to how I eat, what I eat. And it's not that I wasn't eating well, but Polish staple diet is bread.
Right.
And it was only in my 20s when I started doing a bit of a food diary and analysing how my body reacts to what I eat. I've realised that clearly this isn't good for me. And I don't want to say eliminate anything from your diet, because that's not the way forward. We should never eliminate a single food group. But I know that I need to avoid bread, especially white bread, because my body doesn't digest it as well. And that applies to everybody, because as we grow old, our digestive system and our makeup changes. So with age, the enzymes that we have in our body changes, and the way we digest certain carbohydrate is altered. That's why you have a lot of cases of celiac disease being diagnosed in that time. So yes, on my to-do list is probably go and get some tests done. I don't think I'm celiac, but I could scientifically then go and prove, okay, this is why I shouldn't be eating that much bread. But it's sufficient for me, and I think for anybody out there, just to pay more attention to what you eat and how your body reacts to it, to help yourself.
It's interesting. So there's obviously a part of your analytical mind there is obviously, getting interested in that, because there's so much. I mean, particularly on the what we eat front, it's very topical, isn't it? And there's, advice tends to swing from from one extreme to the other.
Definitely. I mean, there is so much out there. People tend to Google everything these days, and there's so many fad diets and keto, paleo, this and that and the other. And it's not that they're not scientists. Some of them are doctors, but it's taking everything with a pinch of salt. I'd say
literally. And what about you? You had a serious accident as well. As that sort of played a role in your sort of health journey as well?
Yes, for sure. Like I said, myself and my family seems to be prone to accidents and all sorts of things. And I think, well, my mum died when I was 18, and she was very young. She was only 51. And that kind of drove as well my journey, make sure that you look after yourself, make sure that you do the right things by you. But when I was still living in London in my 20s, I was again still doing a master's and working, cycling everywhere, trying to be really healthy. And, I used to do like 35 miles a day on a bike. But you still wanted to have friends and party and go out. And at some point, my body just gave in. So I ended up having an accident. I had a head injury, and I ended up being basically out of action for about 3 months. And then I was advised, you should have a pacemaker. And I'm having a brother who's a surgeon who was also like, you must have it, even though it was just advisory. I agreed to do that. But I knew that it was caused by the fact that I naturally have a very low heart rate. And then what I eat and how I eat and how I exercise, when I eat, how I hydrate myself, it all played a part.
Right.
So again, with time, and it was after I've moved out of London, I paid more attention to what I do. And actually now I'm on a journey of getting rid of the pacemaker, because I haven't used it in the past 2 years, which is fantastic news for me. And it just proven the fact that by staying hydrated, making sure that I've got enough fluids consumed in a day, that I don't have a day without food or less food, because it's all about regularity within your body. So I have to make sure that I eat regularly, that I eat quality, that I don't dehydrate, that I do avoid certain simple carbohydrates in certain circumstances. If I do drink alcohol, I drink the same amount of water. So there's all those little things that I tweaked as I went along, and I found that basically it's all manageable. And I think it's just a fantastic showcase. One of showcases that I can give you to prove that a lot of the illnesses and diseases can be prevented just by making small changes to your lifestyle. So yes, I mean, I can quote quite a few. My husband, he's got a chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and he suffered from GERD. He was on medications for a long time, but just by changing the way we eat, he no longer has to take medication.
It's fascinating, and it's one of those subjects where you only need to go onto the internet and YouTube, and there's lots of people who will talk about this and courses. But it's I find it really fascinating hearing you talk about it, Marta, because you're coming at it from point of view as this has happened to you and the people around you. So it's not that you're sort of reciting some theory here. You've researched it because of your but you actually say, but it works, and this is how I've tried it, and I think that's really, really important.
Yes. I think it's important to have this experience as well as the theory. And that's why I went on to do the master's, to have the science behind what I've been doing throughout my life, to be able to tell people that actually, no, there is research on this and it is advisable to do X, Y, and Z. But actually, there's so many middle-aged people out there who are suffering from reflux, from GERD, from pre-diabetic states. So I know for a fact that a lot of it can be mitigated or prevented if only we paid a little bit more attention to our nutrition, our exercise patterns, and our lifestyle.
That's brilliant. Fantastic. Talk a bit then about the differences between physical and mental health, and how that kind of goes together or interacts as well.
It's all very much interlinked, and I'd say, obviously physical activity is extremely important. Our bodies were made to move. We were made to sit 12, 10, 8 hours in front of a laptop. And I certainly suffer from it because at the moment I spend the majority of my time in front of the laptop, and I get to the point where my body's screaming, please move a little. So certainly we do need to move. We don't all have to be professional athletes or do Ironmans or run marathons, but it's important to move. If you do have a sedentary job, yes, every hour, get up, do a 5-minute walk. It is really, really important. But I think even more important is your mental health and how you prioritize and action what you decide to do. Because if you want to run a marathon, you can train your body to do anything, but if you don't have the will and the reasoning behind it, it's not going to happen. It's like, I hate running, and I know I don't run because I keep telling myself that I hate running. But I bet you tomorrow, if you said you're going to train for a marathon, I could go out there and train to run a marathon, but I simply don't want to.
Yeah.
Because I find it boring and it's not for me.
Yeah.
So, and when you speak to athletes, professional athletes, they are training day in and day out. But if on that day they're in a championship or Olympics, if on that day there's something not quite right in their head, when they feel not ready, they feel anxious, it's just not going to go well. And you hear so many interviews just confirming that. So your mind has to be there, and the body will follow. It's
interesting this. I once read a very, very interesting quote in a book, and it was talking about someone who was doing high jump and talking about raising the bar, and a lovely quote, and I can't just bring to mind right now who said it, but he said, you don't need to get your body over the bar, you just need to get your mind over the bar. And I thought that was, and that's really what you're describing there, isn't it?
Yes, yes, and it is, at the moment, words like wellness, visualizations are trendy, but we've been doing it for years, and it is all about visualizing. If you can see, if you've got a dream and you can see it happening, it will.
And I guess the converse is that proves that it's true as well, is if you don't have a dream and a vision, it won't.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. If you put a blocker in, it's another story. I love doing yoga. Until today, even though I've been doing it for years, I cannot do a handstand. And I know it's because as a kid, when I was chubby at school, kids were making fun of me because I couldn't, because I was just too heavy, couldn't do it. Till today, I know I've got a block in my head, and I just will not do it. At some point when I've got more time, more headspace, I'm sure I'm going to be, I am persistent or stubborn, as some say, so I will do it. But it's just because at the moment I know I've got this mental block, and I will just not do a handstand.
Yeah. But I guess it's one of those things which comes to priorities again. When you choose that that's important for you to do,
I'll do it.
Then you'll do it.
Yes.
That's brilliant. You've done a lot of travelling as well. So another thing I just wanted to explore with you is your observations on people's attitudes towards health and well-being in places other than the UK.
If I can send them back maybe more to nutrition, what I guess shocked me most when I moved to the UK was the fact that nutrition and what we eat doesn't seem to be a priority. And especially in big cities, I saw it constantly where, your nutrition or physical activity, so overall health, you could say, was almost like an annoyance. I've got a busy job. I'm a bank manager or whatever high pressure job I've got, but I now need to stop and eat. It's not in my schedule. But I'm thinking, why? You're putting things into your body. That should be a priority, because that will not only fuel your day, that will drive to a healthier, longer life. So why isn't it a priority? Because when something goes wrong with your health, that's it. No matter how much money you've got, you're not going to get it back. And you go to other countries, throughout Europe, continental Europe, you find people where it's all about life revolves around food. You know, where I come from in Eastern Europe, life revolves around food. You'll pop in to see your neighbour and you'll end up almost with like a banquet, because there is always food and drink associated. It's a celebration. And by default, you eat quality. You've got markets. People cherish what they eat and what they do to their bodies. Obviously, it's changing. You know, McDonald's end up everywhere in every country, but yeah, there is more of a priority and attention paid to nutrition and exercise and healthy living, I think. It's changing.
Yeah.
It's obviously changing now in this country, but that shocked me to start with.
I mean, I must admit, if I think back to my time in the corporate world, it was typical for people to eat their sandwiches at their desk.
Yes.
You know, and probably carry on. Yet when I travelled quite a lot at that time, and I remember quite vividly spending quite a lot of time in Italy and in Germany, and so, but it's lunchtime, and everyone would go to the canteen, and it was great food.
Yes.
And it wasn't then just the nutrition; it was people were networking, people were talking to each other. So I think all of that, you know, it's maybe a false economy, isn't it? I'll just rush my sandwiches and get on with the job.
Absolutely, because you're missing out so much on, you know, it's not just your nutrition. It's that whole food experience is celebration of people, family, friends, and life. So why miss out on that?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I love that. Okay, we are right. I could talk forever, but we're starting to get to the end of it now. Okay, so let's just ask here, any quick health tips? So if you had to impart some top tips, you know, let's say, you know, we weren't going to talk again, and Ian, this is something that you know, these are things you should consider. What would we give people as kind of some top tips to consider?
Top tips, I'd say regularity. Our bodies like regularity, so make sure you eat regularly, smaller portion. Inclusivity, again, another trendy word, but it's be adventurous with your food and eat as much of a diverse diet as you can. Add your fruit and veg and spices and herbs and textures, you know, grains, legumes. Just make it exciting, not just to, you know, make it a celebration of food, but it will help you moving forward. Again, things like our taste buds in our mouth, the number of them diminishes with age.
Right.
So you need to make food exciting to carry on eating.
Right.
So start now, be adventurous, go out there, try something new every day. And, you know, don't exclude any of the food groups. There is goodness in everything, and never beat up yourself about having, I don't know, a greasy burger after a pub visit, because, you know, like I said, there's goodness in everything, and it'll cause you more mental, I guess, stigma if you be beating yourself up. Oh, because I just had a whatever. So
varied regularity, and don't beat yourself up if you do eat something that is perceived as being bad on one occasion.
Yes, great summary.
Yeah, fantastic. There's one question I have to ask you. I ask this of everyone. Okay, imagine you could time travel. And think about, you had the ability, you could write yourself a note and put it in an envelope and put it somewhere that you would find the early career Marta. Knowing what you know now, what would you write in that envelope for you to discover?
I'd say believe in yourself more, because that's one thread throughout my life till today, that I don't have enough belief in myself and in what I am capable of.
And what an amazing journey. An amazing journey. Marta, thank you ever so much for coming along. It's been, I could carry on talking for ages, but thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
So this has been One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, and our guest for this episode, Marta Zaremba Marsden. If you found today's discussion interesting, exciting, you want to find out some more, all of the contact details you will find attached in the content section of this podcast. If you've liked what you found today as well and you want to find out more, please subscribe and explore the rest of our podcasts. Thanks very, very much for taking the time to watch and or listen, and we'll see you next time.